Okay, Mr. Chairman, we have a live video, so you can go ahead and call the meeting to order since we have a quorum. And if you would, have the board members and those parties on the phone introduce themselves, and we'll start there.
All right, I formally call this meeting to order. I'll ask first each of the board members to say they are present. I am present, Mark Dadd, and Rebecca Ryan.
Yes, present.
Sandy Purdy.
Sandy Purdy, present.
Joe Kozlowski.
Present.
All right, Doug Berwanger.
There.
All right, and I understand that we have a member who will be joining us as soon as he is done with another meeting. That's Mr. Tom McCormick. All right, Jim Hardy too. Oh, I forgot you, Jim. That's okay, Council. All right, and I'll ask the other people in the room in Warsaw to put their name on the record, please.
Will do.
Robin Marshellick.
Jennifer Tishka.
And Jim Pierce.
Evan Zanner, IDA Council.
All right, and Bill Daly here also via phone. Okay, and we have somebody from the accounting agency. Are they still on the line?
Kathy Bear is present on the line.
Okay. Is there anybody I've missed? Okay. All right, the first order of business is to review the board meeting minutes from February 20th. I think everybody has had a copy. And is there any discussion or any comment on those minutes as presented? Okay. Before I ask for a vote, I think it's more efficient if I just see if there's any nay votes rather than trying to call each vote for every board member. Because in my experience, we have very seldom have any nay votes, but I'm going to follow that procedure. And I also wanted to mention, as far as voting, that the governor has issued a directive saying that the members participating by telephone can vote contrary to the rule that was in effect in our earlier meetings. Let me see, there's one other thing Kevin wanted me to do here. And as Jim has already said, before you comment, or we would ask you to identify yourself by name so that there's a clear record. So with that in mind, I'll ask you, is there anybody who has a negative vote for approval of the Wyoming County IDA board meeting minutes of February 20th, 2020? If so, please speak up. I'm sorry? Did somebody say something?
I think we need a motion first, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay. Do I have a motion to approve the board meeting minutes that I just described?
Joe Kozlowski, both the minutes are stated.
All right. Do I have
Jim Hardy, second.
All right, Jim Hardy seconds. If there is no opposition, I will mark this as everybody is in agreement and the minutes are approved. Okay, let's move along following the same procedure on the financial statement. And I'll ask Robin to give us any update that she wishes to at this time.
Okay, yes, Chairman. We started out the month with $1,157,707 in cash on hand, $2,122,63 in invested fund balance. We received in fees from projects that were closed, and we had, under other receipts, you'll see the 175, 171, and then the 228,098. That's the pilot payments in from Stony Creek and High Sheldon Wind. For our expenses for the month, it's our typical expenses. We had conference and training. I think that was that for the one that's coming up?
That is for the New York State Association of Counties and the New York State Ag Society Forum.
So that was the ones in January. And then our typical monthly expenses, wasn't anything out of the ordinary there. Other disbursements, you'll see the Cogentrix Weatherfield Wind Park and the Cogentrix Bliss Wind Park. We paid out their pilot payments to the jurisdictions that were expecting them. We ended the month with $1,083,937 in cash on hand, $2,122,274 in CDs and invested funds.
All right. Is there any discussion of the financial report? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve that report.
Approve, Jim Hardy.
And I would like to make the motion.
And this is
Hardy,
Becky.
Becky Ryan.
Yep. Okay, Becky Ryan made the motion and Jim Hardy seconded. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there any opposition? If not, and hearing none, I will approve that motion. Okay. Now, at this time, under 2C, we will have a presentation by our accountant, and Kathy Barrett is prepared to do that at this time. Is that correct?
I am.
All right, go ahead, please.
Okay, so you should have received 4 documents in total. You should have received the audited financial statements for the loan corp, the audited financial statements for the IDA, and the management letters for each of those entities. The Business Assistance Corporation is actually a component unit of the IDA, and their financial statements are consolidated in the IDA's financial statements. So you can see the financial information for both of those entities starting on page 19 of the IDA's financial statement. So if you want to scan to that page, I'll give you a minute to get there. We can go through the financial operations of both organizations simultaneously, if that's all right with you, Chairman.
It is. Go ahead.
Okay. So on page 19, you should see the combining statement of net position. Right now, you have your cash invested in cash certificates and U.S. Treasuries. The organization has been making those transfers between certificates of deposits and U.S. Treasuries based on whoever has the best return at the time. Overall, your current assets for both the agency and the loan corporation did not change significantly from the prior year. Within the loan corporation, your notes receivable in total went up about $70,000 this year. You had about $389,000 in new loans, and you received loan payments of about $305,000. In their non-current assets, the land held for investments in the IDA, there was no change in that number. Deferred outflows and deferred inflows have to do with your participation in the New York State retirement plan. If you remember, you joined the retirement system about, I think it was in 2017. That plan is not fully funded. It's funded at about 96, 97%. So under non-current liabilities, you see a net pension liability of $42,000. That is your portion of the unfunded liability within the plan. Under net position, the first item is investment in capital assets. That is your capital assets less accumulated depreciation. Restricted net position under the loan corp, $160,000. That has to do with the GAIN program. That loan program, the funds are restricted for revolving loans. You will see that there is a significant decrease in that line item from last year. And if you remember, as of March 31st, 2019, you had to fully commit all of your CDBG funds under your loan program as of that date, or return the monies to the state because they were closing that program. you were able to fully commit and grant those funds out to various entities. So that's why those funds are no longer committed, because the loan program no longer exists and you disperse those funds by the deadline. Any question on the statement of net position? Okay, if you scroll to page 21, you'll see the combining statement of revenue and expenses. Under the agency, your fees and penalties, that increased about $240,000 from the prior year, and most of that has to do with the fees that you collected from Texas Brine. Your grant revenue was actually zero for the agency this year. Last year was $731,000, and that had to do with the completion of the rail project. Grant revenue under the loan corp is down about $15,000 or 17% from what it was prior year. Overall operating revenues were down for the agency by about $493,000. Again, that has to do with not having the rail project grant revenue offset by the increase in the fees. Your operating revenues for the loan corp are up about $23,000 or 14% from the prior year. Under operating expenses, for the agency, total operating expenses are down $332,000. All of that has to do with the rail project. The rail project grant expenditures were $384,000. If you exclude that item from the prior year, your operating expenses are up about $52,000 from the prior year, primarily in the area of salary and benefits. On the loan corp side, grant expenses are down about $172,000, and that has to do with the granting of some of those CDBG funds last year before the end of the year. There was also a significant decrease in the bad debt expense compared to last year. So that brought your net position in the agency to $3.2 million, and in the loan corp, just over $4 million. So, you're very healthy with your net position in both entities. Any question on the financial results of the two organizations? Okay. I'm going to go back into the notes of the financial statements and just have you look at a couple of things of interest. On page 8, at the bottom of the page.
But I have a question. We got a question here from Joe Gazelski.
Yes, what can I?
Check under grant expenses. You made a comment of $272,000. I just went to loan corp. Why am I making $239,000? Am I missing something here?
It was $239,000 for 2019. It was $411,000 in 2018. So that's a decrease of $172,000, having to do with the granting of some of those CDBG funds last year. Does that answer your question?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. So on page 8, at the bottom of the page, we talk about new accounting pronouncements. The one that will have some impact on you for next year is statement number 87, having to do with leases and the long-term lease obligation you have to the county for the space in the building. So that's going to basically show up as a lease liability, where right now it's treated as an operating expense and just flows through your expense every year. So we'll set the present value of that lease as a lease liability on your balance sheet next year, and then amortize it over the remaining period of the lease. I don't see that you have any other significant leasing activities that's going to be impacted by that new standard. On page 10, note 2, it talks about your grant revenue year over year. It explains, the significant variances from $819,000 to $103,000, and again, that has to do with the rail initiative. Note 3 describes your loan portfolio at the end of the year. You had a significant write-off of doubtful accounts in the current year that resulted in the allowance going down from $224,000 down to $110,000. And management goes through and evaluates the collectability of each of your loans on a loan-by-loan basis to come up with the $110,000 allowance. They don't use a percentage of loans outstanding. It's specific identification methodology. That's about the only things of significance that I wanted to bring to your attention in the notes to the financial statement. Any questions on the financial statements themselves? Okay. We also do a compliance examination under Section 2925 of the New York Public Authorities Law, which has to do with compliance with investment guidelines. And we saw no issue of non-compliance this year that we needed to bring to your attention. The next thing that I wanted to go over with you is the management letters, and they're pretty much identical. So if you were to look at the management letter for the IDA, you can follow along. I'll give you a second to pull up that document. The first couple of pages are our required communication to you, the board of the entity. It describes our responsibilities to you as your auditors, and that was all outlined in our engagement letter. We also provided you with a letter describing our audit plan for this year. If there were any new changes in accounting policies, unusual transactions, significant estimates that changed during the year, those would be also outlined in this letter, of which there were none. We did have a couple of audit adjustments this year. For the IDA, there was an audit adjustment regarding that had to do with the liability, deferred inflows, and deferred outflows for your participation in the pension system, as well as an adjustment to the fair value of your treasury bills. And for the business center, there was an unrecorded accounts payable. It was one of those things Robin hemmed and hawed whether she should record it as an accounts payable at the end of the year or not, based on when the bill was received. And we took part of our procedures and instructed her that it really should be recorded as grant expense. And that was $225,000. Otherwise, no disagreements with management, no significant issues, and no significant control material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, or in your estimated liabilities, and our conclusion that we thought that all of those estimates were reasonable based on the information provided. Page 4 talks about the implementation of that accounting standard for leases. For the IDA, you've got the adjusted journal entries on page 5 and the uncorrected misstatement on page 6. And Exhibit A, which is the signed representation letter taking responsibility for the financial statements. Overall, the audit went really well. We come out there, we do 3 audits in about 4 days, 4 to 5 days. Robin, Jen, Jim all do a fantastic job of preparing for the audit, having all the information ready for us. The accounting records are really in really good, fantastic order for us to audit. The one entry with the accounts payable was just kind of a fluke timing issue that we caught on our audit. But overall, we have found no issues with the accounting records whatsoever, and I really appreciate the staff attention to preparing for the audit. We greatly appreciate it.
All right. Is there any discussion? All sounds very good. Is there anything we can do that we're not doing to your satisfaction?
No, you do a fantastic job. I know that you constantly have, new initiatives and that you're working on. Sometimes the transactions are a little messier than others, but this year, the audit went extremely smoothly. I would just encourage the staff there that, as you get involved in some of these more convoluted transactions, if you ever have any questions, feel free to call us. It's always better to discuss those items and get the accounting behind it, figured out at the onset rather than, at the time of the audit.
Okay, well, it all sounds good, and I join your congratulations of our staff. I know that they work very hard to make sure this is done correctly. And we thank you very much for your report.
Thank you very much. I'll drop off the call now.
Yes, you will. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you again for allowing me to present the report.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Mr. Chairman, Kathy is very generous in lumping me in the compliments, but I think the board knows well enough that Robin and Jennifer are the brain thrust behind all the financials. And
You're stealing my thunder. Anyway.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, moving right along.
We got to have that approved. Repeat a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do I hear a motion to approve the audit? And we will do this at this time for the IDA, but this presentation would also apply to the BCA meeting, which we will have shortly. Do I have such a motion to approve the audit?
I make the motion.
Becky made the motion.
Becky moved,
Nope.
and second?
Sandy made the motion.
Sandy.
Yeah, Sandy made the motion.
Okay. Who's seconding?
I'll second it.
It's a little clumsy, but we'll get through this.
All right. Who would like to second the motion? One person.
I will, Becky Wright.
Brian, you're chosen. Second. Is there any opposition to the motion as presented? Hearing none, the motion is granted. Okay. Now moving along to our next issue, 3A. I think this is something that we discussed at great length in our last meeting, the battery storage project.
Right.
I know that Jim had a public hearing on the 17th on this, and I'll ask him to give us a very brief summary of where we are.
Yeah, well, just to refresh the board's memory, we did receive the application from Orangeville Energy Storage quite a while ago. The application was complete. The total project cost is projected to be $11,680,000, and it will be for a 20 megawatt storage facility located on Center Line Road in the town of Orangeville. Currently, right next to the substation for the wind project that's also in Orangeville. This company is Invenergy that's doing this project, and they're very well known in Wyoming County as being good community partners, and they took, at least initially, have taken pretty good care of the town of Orangeville as well as the pilot, because we both of those came out and really as a good community benefit for everyone. There's not a lot of employment with this project. There is going to be one job created. We did do a cost benefit analysis of the project, and this is for a 20-year term pilot. The total project incentives are going to be in the neighborhood of $7,258,200. That includes $131,400 for the mortgage recording tax, a property tax over the 20 years of $6,294,000, and a sales tax exemption of $832,800. Less our project fee and attorney costs, they're going to net over $7 million worth of incentives for this project. As the board knows, anytime there is a project that's going to be receiving greater than $100,000 incentives, we are required to do a public hearing. As well, on this one, we had to do a deviation of notice because this project does deviate from our uniform tax exemption policy. So the notices for both the public hearing and the deviation were made public. The deviation letters and notices were sent also to all the taxing jurisdictions. And we did hold a public hearing at the town hall in the town of Orangeville on this week. There were only 2 representatives in attendance, and they both included the project developer for this project as well as their project counsel. So the comments that showed up on the sheet for the public hearing has a couple positive statements from the project developers. Now, this project has met all qualifications for an IDA eligible project. They submitted the application. They completed the seeker process. There was a final declaration of neg deck that was done by the town of Orangeville's planning board. We did the public hearing. We did the notices. We did the deviation and the notices. And then we have shared the minutes. So this has all the parts for a complete application for the board to consider making a decision on this project. So with that, I will present this as the project summary.
All right. Do we have a motion? I'm looking for that in our packet.
There is a resolution that was drafted by council.
Right, that's right.
Let's see.
Yeah. Okay, I've got it. It's quite a ways in the packet presented. Is everybody finding that in their materials? It's 10 pages in length.
Doug Burweier, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'll make the motion to approve the request.
All right, and to approve the resolution as drafted by council Yes. Of 10 pages. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second it, Jim Hardy.
All right, is there any discussion? If there's any opposition to approval of this resolution, please speak now. Hearing none, I will mark the resolution as approved by the board. Okay. Now, let me go on to the next. Okay, our next item on the agenda is a request by Indus Hospitality Group for an extension of the sales tax exemption. Jim, could you bring us up to date on that, please?
Well, if anybody's driven by, you can see the project is well underway. It's been slowed a little bit by weather and other disasters that are currently blowing around. So subsequently, he is asking that it may take a little bit longer to fully equip the facility with all the items that they need that are covered by the sales tax exemption, and would ask the board that they please consider extending it from the end of March till the end of December of this year.
Okay. Do we have a date or a new date about when they think they might open the door?
He still is pretty optimistic that he's thinking about June, but I don't know. The hospitality industry is taking quite a hit lately on, so maybe he'll just take his time and get it done. I don't know, but we're still looking at June, possibly July.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
What's the mega line of this? Java and
That's the next one. We're at a hotel.
we still at a hotel?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the request for the extension of sales tax.
I would like to make the motion, Becky Ryan.
And do I hear a
I'll second it, Sandy Purdy.
All right. Is there any opposition to this motion? If not, the motion is approved and the extension is granted. All right, now we have another similar request from the Java Energy Battery Storage. Jim, could you again give us some background?
Sure. The board approved this project some time ago. This is for the battery storage project in the town of Java. This project has been delayed for a number of months now, actually going on a year, primarily because Invenergy is having some challenges getting NYSEG, who will be the owner of this facility, to agree to design and a variety of other things. As the board can recall, this project is going to be designed so that it will service a part of the Java with a battery storage system, which typically has some brownouts and blackouts. So this is like a little micro grid project that would really improve electrical service in that area, as well as help balance out the grid system. So it's an important project, I think, for our county. Like I said, it's been running a little bit over trying to get NYSEG and the folks at Invenergy who are proposing this project for them on the same page, but they would like another year of extension. So again, this one expires the end of this month, and they would like to continue it until March 31 of 2021.
All right. Any discussion? Questions? If not, I will entertain a motion to grant the extension.
How about that, Jim? Joe Gazowski.
Is that you, Joe?
Yes, Joe Gazowski.
You're making the motion?
Yes.
Yeah. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Jim Hardy.
All right. Is there any one of the board that has any opposition to this extension? If not, I will determine that the request has been approved. All right. The next matter is under 3D, and this is the authorization of a land sale. And I was going to ask you, Kevin, is there any reason that we should go into special or executive session on this?
Jim and I spoke about that in advance of the meeting. We didn't identify any specific reason. If the board wanted to discuss the purchase price or proposed purchase price in executive session, that would be permissible. But I believe most of those questions are already addressed in the resolution and in the land sale agreement provided in the materials.
All right, let me ask this. Is there anybody, I do not feel that it would be necessary to go into executive session in this situation, but if anybody would request that, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session. Does anybody so request? Okay. Hearing no opposition, we will proceed. Is there any discussion of the contract itself? Is attached to our materials. Does anybody have any questions or discussion of the proposed contract, which is land sale agreement? Is kind of a long-winded document here. It's a 13-page document, followed by a resolution approving the sale.
I do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Okay, this is
Go ahead.
Nancy Purdy. I know when we were talking about this originally, there were some questions as to a gas line and signage at the roadside. Has that all been determined?
Yes.
I think Jim had an answer for us on that last meeting, but go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, Sandy, in recognition that the property wasn't served by any gas, we contacted National Fuel and found out that they have a grant program. So we made application for a grant, and actually we're successful in securing a $60,000 grant that will not only bring a gas line to the site, but will also serve the other site the IDA owns across Steel Avenue, the other 28 acres. And the 60,000 will also allow us to expand the line up to 4 inches down from 2 inches is what was originally proposed. So it's going to be, the gas line will be fully funded by the grant. We'll have access to gas for the new parcel, and the grant will pay to run the line from Steel Avenue to the box at the hotel. So all in all, this has been a win for all of us. That grant was a real blessing. In regards to the sign by the road, I have talked with Jason and his father, Dick Hoffman, who own Utz Tire and own that property on the corner. They're very agreeable to lease them a parcel of land for a sign that can be lit out by the road. There aren't any contracts or anything signed at this point, but I know they've had discussions with the zoning officer about it. In fact, when we did the zoning change for the Village of Arcade to allow for hotels and improve the zoning law for this sign for this hotel, it was all rolled into one request. So the signage has been approved through the village zoning in terms of where it can be and how it can be lit. So I think both of those issues have been rectified.
And none of that falls in under our responsibility once the sale goes through.
That's correct.
Good. Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution as presented. And it's a 4-page document, which is a part of our package. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make the motion. This is Sandy Purdy.
Do I have a second?
I'll second. I'll second.
All right. Is there anyone who has any opposition to this resolution? If not, hearing none, the resolution is passed. Okay. Now, Jim, mindful of the fact that Becky has to leave us at
Yes, sir.
3:30.
Yes, sir.
I'll ask you if you will give us your report.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you a full report. I just wanted to let the board know that this whole coronavirus thing has really thrown our businesses into some really uncharted water. In particular, the last few days for our manufacturers, where the governor came out initially and said 50% of their workforce must be reduced, and then came back out a couple hours later and said it's got to be reduced by 75%. So we've been on the phone for the last few days trying to get clarification exactly on what's being proposed. Our manufacturers are, like I said, they're really concerned, and they have to make some tough decisions here real soon. But there's a million questions about what do you do? What's a non-essential business? How do I deal with unemployment? What does it mean if you're an essential goods or service business or you're not? Who decides that? It just goes on and on. So I just want to let the board know that this virus has really kicked our Wyoming County economy in the gut, and we're doing our best. It's our priority is to serve the needs of our existing business, and we've been fortunate to team up with Scott at the chamber, and we're putting out updates as fast as they pump them out of Albany. So we're just going to hang on and do what we can to save our own for the time being. That's my report.
Okay, thank you. And also, I brought draw everybody's attention to those two articles, which are included in the materials about the hotel and how it got started with the postcard, and also a nice article about the animal park, Boxer's Animal Park. And to my amazement, they said they had more than 30,000 visitors a year, which I had no idea that was the case. But those two articles, I tried to print them, but I couldn't do that on my computer, but they are included in our materials.
They were great articles. This is Becky.
Yeah. You know, I think I heard a bunch of people talk about it. As I said, I couldn't download them for some reason. Okay, Bill?
Just we're waiting on the census grant, but nobody in the state has heard one word since we all got them in like the first Monday of the month. And the county's supposed to get $70,000, and of course, right now it's so up in the air with the virus. You know, who's going to go door to door? So this is really tough. I did get my census. Has anybody else received their census notification in the mail already?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, mine.
I did as well. Okay, they're out now.
Yep.
And,
Bill?
This
is Becky, and we actually did ours online, so ours is all done.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do when meetings.
Yep.
Do ours too. But anyhow, we're waiting for that. And I just want to. This was a big deal today, selling this property to Eastern Hospitality, and that's a long time project. And Doug Vanstrom, the president of the state, true to his word, and he wanted the property. So that's wonderful. Now, just very briefly, the prevailing wage thing is still up in the air. It's still in the budget. Nobody's even talking about the budget because all they're talking about is coronavirus. So, everybody's thinking, and now they're talking about rushing the budget through so it can get done so then we can concentrate on coronavirus. Well, that's the worst news that the entire state of New York could have because there's so much crap in the budget. It'll be a disaster. So, we'll see how that goes. Luckily, they got the property. How soon before we're going to vote on a tax lease pilot?
They still have to go through the permitting and planning approval process yet.
Well, they better hurry before prevailing wage is law, but because it might just squeeze through, and their project will be over $5 million. So we better keep the foot down on this. But anyway, I wanted to congratulate everybody, especially Jim, for all the work on getting that hotel and arcade. But it's not a done deal, so we get the tax lease and pilot ahead of prevailing wage. That's it, sir.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other business?
Yeah, I have two items, Mr. Chairman. Actually, just one item. Given the circumstances and all the state mandates and things that are flying around, our staff would be interested in asking the board if we could have the board's permission to work from home. Each of us have a laptop. We have access to the main hardline telephone here. We have cell phones. We don't get a lot of walk-in traffic lately. So I just think it would be, we should follow along and probably try to work from home. And then sporadically, I would come into the office and make sure things are all set. But I just wanted to see if the board could give us permission to do that.
I think we should leave that up to Charlie. Once needed, keep doing what you're doing. Does anybody disagree?
Nope.
No, okay. That answers the question. All right, any other business?
No, sir.
Okay, our next meeting is scheduled April 9th at 2:30. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
This is Becky Ryan. I'll make that motion. I'll make the
And I
motion
will
to adjourn.
Becky and Sandy?
Is there any opposition to the motion to adjourn? Hearing none, the motion is granted, or approved, or whatever. Okay.
Okay, just
Move
give
right
us,
along to the-
Mr. Chairman, give us a couple minutes so we can the live feed.
Yes, I was getting a cracking noise in my phone. I
Yeah,
don't know what-